I'd like to call this meeting to order, this regular City Council meeting, this Tuesday, April 15th. The clerk will call the roll.
Mayor Wolcott.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hall.
Here.
Councilmember Villanueva.
Here.
Councilmember Tandy.
Here.
Councilmember Viendo.
Here.
Councilmember Winters.
Here.
Councilmember Williams is excused.
Thank you. And if you'll all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a city manager's report?
Yes, Madam Chair. One report, a spring training update from Mark Coronado.
Welcome, Mark. I'm sure you have great news for us this evening.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Hillman, we do have good news today. I know that several of you have asked me for the financials for spring training and been working with Mr. Wingenroth and the staff in CRS to verify our numbers and make sure what we report is accurate. And it is good news. It was a good season. There's a lot of highlights. You can see our scoreboard there to the left, really well received. We had 14 games this year where we sold over $100,000 in ticket revenue. Last year we had 6. So we actually set an all-time record on March 13th, the Giants game. We had over $250,000 of gross ticket revenue, which is by far almost $100,000. That was one of our dynamic pricing days with the Giants. And I can tell you that the DMA shows us that probably 70% of our fans are from the San Francisco Bay Area. You can see the party deck and some full stands. We had a nice crowd this year. The added bonus that I think we don't talk about enough sometimes is we had over 210 hours of televised baseball from Surprise, Time Warner in Los Angeles, the Fox Sports Network in Texas that is Southwest Texas region, but it heads over into Arkansas and has some New Mexico carryover. And the Fox Sports there in the Texas, Kansas City markets. LA again, we were lucky to be in the LA market. The Arbitron ratings tell us that on some of these games that you can have anywhere between 5 to 8 million fans watching a game for 2 hours there in the LA market, one of the largest markets in the country. And then, of course, this doesn't tell you any of the games that were taken from this feed and put it on the Major League Baseball Network, and then they would replay them later on at night. If you're a baseball junkie like me, you wake up in the morning at 6 o'clock and get ready to go to work, and you'd watch a replay from last night's game. So those are extra bonuses. I think this is what everyone likes to see. Overall, our revenues were up. Our tickets, we set an all-time record this year, $2.8 million in gross revenue on the ticket side. Last year, to put it in perspective, we sold about 2.5. We were up about 14%. Keep in mind that this year we had 28 games versus 35. And really the answer that most ask is why do you see this as an increase with less games? And I say because we had more fans from Kansas City in the Texas market. And I can tell you where that focus is in. There's 2 numbers. Concessions were up 8%. We grossed 1.558. Normally, your concession prices are up, in my experience, if you have an out-of-town fan who's not afraid to buy that $10 hot dog. Okay. On the merchandise side, we expanded our gross sales area by about 20,000 square feet, and we were able to increase our merchandise by 48%, almost hit that 900,000 number, which we hope to hit next year. And again, it's an out-of-town tourist fan who's not afraid to go in there, and the per cap in there is about $10, $11, but it's not afraid to go in and buy a $200 jersey or a $150 bat or a $49 New Era baseball hat. The rent is also factored in here. You can see there's a CPI on there. Programs were down this year. And the reason for that is we went to a new strategy. We tried to reduce our cost on printing and went from an 8x10 to a 5x7 program. We actually distributed more We'll relook at this next year. Never has been really a significant revenue, but the printing cost was somewhat uncomfortable for us, so we'll take another look at that and see how we get that going. In reference to the last 3 years, you can see that our revenues were up. We all-time record again, 5.7 million. Hopefully to get to 6 next year if we can. And again, 35 games last year and 28. As I explained to Ms. Duncan in finance, that more games does not necessarily mean more revenue. When you start early in February, fans aren't coming for spring break, and it's a colder climate, so more games don't necessarily mean more revenues. The payouts and how we'll be settling with the finance department here next week. The payout is all-time high for the Kansas City Royals. They were up 7%. You can see in 13 we paid them $912,000. I was hoping to get, for the first time, we'd pay both teams $1 million or more, $989,000. The Rangers, though their attendance was flat, they brought a good crowd for about 10 days. If you were at a Rangers-Royals game, you can always tell when you have an out-of-town fan, because a local fan and a local crowd, when there's a ground ball to third base and they throw somebody out at first, nobody cheers. But when it's a Texas crowd or a Kansas City crowd or a Giant crowd, just a routine out becomes a standing ovation. Yes. Okay. So, and from my office, I can hear and I say, hey, we must have a lot of people from out of town here today. So the city payout this year is 1.786, almost 1.8. Last year, up from 1.5. There are some surcharge dollars in that as well that we'll be bringing back to you when we bring back the RFQ for potential design of the clubhouses and the expansion. And we'll show you how that all breaks down, but if we split the revenues across, that's how it breaks down, 989, 1.1, and 1.7. And then there's the program situation. I just kind of wanted to show you we actually sold less programs but had less cost, and so we'll evaluate this and see if we can bring that number back up again. Any questions or comments?
I'm not sure we can do questions or comments in the mayor's or
No questions or comments.
Right. No questions or comments. But I'm sure that there are many. Mark, thank you for your report. And those council members, if you do have questions or comments about these numbers, be sure to send them to Chris, and he can forward them on to you, Mark.
I have a question.
Actually, we can't ask questions or comments in this report.
Oh, I just wanted to make a comment that I heard a lot of good reports on that billboard. A lot of nice remarks on the billboard.
Thank you. All right. City Attorney's report?
I have no report tonight, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to take something slightly out of order this evening before we get into our regular agenda. We have some special guests in the audience this evening. And so I just want to acknowledge a group of young ladies that are sitting out here in the front row. And so if you would, I'd like to ask Girl Scout Troop 1010 to please stand and be recognized. I have a little bit of a background to read. Girl Scout Troop 1010, under the direction of Kelly Kuhn, is participating in the 2014 Global Art Project for Peace. This international project matches thousands of participants around the world, connecting people in the spirit of unity without regard for race, culture, gender, nationality, age, or belief. The Girl Scouts came up with the idea to participate in this project on their own. The Global Art Project for Peace requires participants to create a work of art that expresses their vision of global peace. The artwork may be done in any medium as long as it can be mailed from one person or group to another. Participants are asked to display their artwork locally in each of their communities so that their citizens may view their vision of peace. And we are delighted that the Girl Scouts decided to display their artwork in Surprise City Hall. Girl Scout Troop 1010's artwork will be on display at City Hall until April 29th. So I encourage all of you to view this artwork and learn more about this outstanding endeavor these Scouts are involved in. At the end of April, the Girl Scout Troop's artwork will be mailed nearly 6,000 miles away to their project partner in Finland, where the artwork will be displayed. In turn, their partner in Finland will send their piece of art here in Surprise for display. Through this project, visions of global unity will travel around the world from one group to another, all at the same time. So I want to thank you, ladies, you girls, and thank you, Scout Leader Kelly Kuhn, for sharing your art project and your vision of peace and unity with the city of Surprise. So please accept our thanks. And so at this time, Vice Mayor, I know that these gals are special to you, so if you would join me down below.
How cute that is.
Oh, nice.
That is so nice. Is that little doves? Doves on top?
Let's see. Mayor, be on the other end. You know what I'd like to do is swing back. Whoa, come back this way. What's that? Oh, sure, absolutely. That's nice. Yeah, that's perfect.
You go first. Hold it.
A couple of these. Light it just right. You know what? That's a little crooked. Can we straighten it out? I think the low end has to come up a little higher. I didn't notice that until I looked at the picture. Sorry. There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
How cute.
Can I go to Finland too? That would be nice. All right. The regular agenda, consent agenda consists of 3 items. Is there any motion to pull any item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
Thank you. Unanimous yes vote, Mayor.
Okay, very good. And there are, as we move into the second portion of the regular agenda, I'll note that a couple of questions came up since the posting of the agenda on 3 items, and it's a recommendation that we move to pull items 7, 9, and 12 to table them and move them to May 6th. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to move 7, 9, and 12 to the May meeting.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve those items for May 6th. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 That motion is approved. The second, the regular agenda items now before us are item 4.
Would you like me to read the whole item, Mayor?
Actually, no. Just the first sentence.
Very good. Consideration and action to amend the city's debt management financial policy.
Very good. Councilmember Tandy?
Thank you. This proposal is very important to me, and I'll talk a little bit about why. One of the things in the detail, it says one of the most important things that we can show is lower interest costs for borrowing when we get a better credit rating. I think that's a very good thing, but I think there's also more to it than that. And there are some best practices on the government finance officers Association website. I want to read just a paraphrase of some of them to give you a little bit more background on why I think this is important. A debt management policy should improve the quality of decisions, articulate policy goals, and provide guidelines. Demonstrate a commitment to long-term capital and financial planning, adherence to debt management signals to the rating agencies and to the capital markets that government is well managed and therefore is likely to meet its debt obligations in a timely manner. Finally, debt management policies should be approved by the issuer's governing body to provide credibility, transparency, and to ensure that there is a common understanding among elected officials and staff. And what we're doing here is making a change from what I'd call a best practice to an even better practice for our financial policies. We're only addressing one item. I would encourage the chief financial officer and the city manager to bring additional items for best practices through the budget process. But I think this one is so important that I wanted to bring it forward now. I also wanted to say once more for people who haven't been listening before is we were recently upgraded in our credit rating. We are in very good, we actually are a very good credit rating, but I want to go get us to the prime credit rating. Very difficult to do, but it is doable. So my motion will be, I move to amend the city's debt management financial policy to read, the city shall periodically report on measurable steps taken while striving towards achieving and then maintaining the highest bond ratings in order to minimize borrowing costs, preserve access to credit, and demonstrate excellent financial stewardship by the city for our taxpayers and our residents.
I second that motion.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve this item as read. And just for further discussion, I just want to thank you, Councilmember Tandy, for bringing this item forward. I know it's very important to you, but it's also very important to all of us and the rest of the city. I think it's another step in the right direction that we've been setting a path for the last couple of years, and it's yielded results. And I think that making a statement of intention like this is very, very clear to the public and important to set a goal that, as you say, is attainable. Tough to do, but there's nothing wrong with hard work. So thank you for bringing it forward. Is there any other questions about this item? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll.
Unanimous yes vote, Mayor.
Thank you. Next item.
Item 5, this is a Community Outreach Grants Program Subcommittee presentation.
Councilmember Biondo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you recall, this program was funded last year during the budget process for the first year. So we've had our pilot year with the program. I do want to thank Michael Salaya and Janine Gaskins, who put in so much hard work to make sure the program worked this year. Just a quick review of the program. I'll go over some of the guidelines. 501c3 was important verification, new application every cycle, whatever activity or event must take place in the city of Surprise. We were very careful about looking at proposed budgets, required twice-a-year reporting. There's also some follow-up that takes place. Maximum award would be $10,000, and then funds are provided on an invoice or reimbursement basis. If the program's funded again, we will recommend some fine-tuning of those guidelines as well as the application process that we'll be bringing to council, that we'll be recommending to council if the program's funded again. Let me kind of review what happened during the course of this year. You understand the program was designed to support local nonprofit organizations which serve specifically the city of Surprise. During this first year, $50,000 was allocated. During round one, and we did go through 2 rounds this year, we may recommend only one next year rather than splitting it up, so we may have some carryover. But at any rate, $50,000 was allocated. During round one, $5 5 awards were made. We received requests for over $50,000, and we awarded, as council approved the recommendations at that point, of $34,400. So we had a balance of $14,600, and that's what occurred during this round 2 process. During round 2, as you can see, we received almost the same amount of requests again from nonprofit organizations, a little over $47,000, and we recommended then the balance of $14,600. This is just a quick overview of our recommendations. Recommend the West Valley Symphony for a poster art contest in conjunction with the Dysart schools, particularly that we thought enhanced the proposal, as well as creating greater visibility for the West Valley Symphony and its concerts. They requested $2,750. We're recommending $1,750. The St. Vincent de Paul Society, they proposed utility assistance for 20 surprise families. They requested $5,000. We're recommending $5,000. The Friends of Surprise Library, if you've been in the library, you have seen out in the lobby where they have that used bookstore. Mm-hmm. They requested $240 to create greater awareness for that used bookstore. We're recommending funding of $240. And then the American Cancer Society, funding to support the Relay for Life. Promotional marketing fees, printing costs, etc. They requested $10,000. We recommended $3,500. And then Rio Salado Maricopa Community College Foundation, and we were kind of excited about this because it's a bit different, rather unique, right. Touches a lot of areas. The Surprise Community Intergenerational Sustainability Program, which would include some tuition waivers, class supplies, lab fees, etc., for students to attend 3 classes: introductory nutrition, gardening practices and techniques, and a cooking on a plant-based diet. And we thought how well this fits in with the community garden, as well as the right. sustainability program, as well as the intergenerational aspect of it. So it seemed to have some real strengths. The request was for $4,563. We're recommending $4,110. I also want to thank the members of the subcommittee, Councilmember John Williams and Councilmember Roland Winters, who helped us through this whole process as well. We'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, members? You did a great job, Councilmember Biondo, very well presented, and it's very exciting to see kind of the diversity of applicants and how we've been able to spread some, it's not a lot of money.
That's right.
But it's very meaningful to these groups. Yes. So it's a job well done, and I really appreciate your leadership, Councilman Biondo.
Thank you. With that, Madam Chair, I would move to approve the recommendations.
Excuse me, Mayor, I'm so sorry.
I can't do that.
It's not agendized for a recommendation of, it's agendized as a presentation as opposed to recommended funding, but it's a very easy thing to fix at the next regular meeting on the 6th. Okay. It says approved council member, but the wording of the agenda is community outreach grants program subcommittee presentation, not recommendations for funding.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I thought that had been amended. There was a request to amend that to presentation and action.
So apparently this is just the
apparently
agenda. We're having happy mistakes.
We're having agenda issues this week.
Yes, we will correct those promptly. But if we could bring this back for the 6th, I would.
That's fine.
Okay, and I will make sure that it's agendized appropriately.
All right, so we can have a simple motion. Next time around. Right. All right then, very well. Okay, thanks very much, Councilman Biondo, and to all those groups that might have been even listening out there in the audience. We'll get to you, it looks like, at the next council meeting. So thank you. All right, next item.
Consideration and action declaring its intention to create the City of Surprise Sycamore Farms Parcel 12 Lighting Improvement District, and this is Resolution 2014-26.
Fortunately, this is for your consideration and action tonight.
Fortunately so.
This is the street lighting improvement district for Sycamore Farms. Sycamore Farms is a new subdivision in the southeastern or southwestern part of our city. As you know, the street light improvement district, or SLID, is the funding mechanism we use to make sure that the folks that live in that neighborhood will have street lights. And we'd appreciate your consideration, and I would be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions, members? Vice Mayor Hall.
Yeah, Mike, could you kind of review the mechanics here with the SLID? Once the SLID gets in place, then it appears on the next property tax bill?
Yeah, it appears on the next property tax bill, and they pay it through their property taxes.
Okay. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
No.
Any further questions?
No.
Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 2014-26.
Is there a second? A motion has been made and seconded to approve Resolution 2014-26 as presented. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
Unanimous yes vote, Mayor.
Thank you. Next item is item 8.
Consideration and action approving amendment to COS 13-014 to add the second phase of the well project. And this is for the construction manager at risk contract with Felix Construction for Mountain Vista Ranch Well 2.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of council. Tonight we're seeking approval of guaranteed maximum price number 2 with Felix Construction in an amount not to exceed $1,318,501. This will authorize the last phase of the Mountain Vista Ranch Well number 2 construction. As we discussed a couple weeks ago, guaranteed maximum price number 1, the scope of work associated with that has been complete. That included the well drilling activities. Guaranteed maximum price number 2 will include the above ground well equipping. Again, this will be paid for out of the Water Development Impact Fee Fund. The total project cost is roughly $2.7 million. The design was $428,300. GMP number 1, which is complete, was $1,042,369. And tonight we're seeking authorization of the guaranteed maximum price number 2, $1,318,501. Be happy to take any questions.
Questions, members? Vice Mayor Hall?
Thank you, Mayor. Mike, this is, as I remember, it's scheduled to be complete by late this year?
That's correct, November.
November this year, we're complete. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the construction manager at risk contract for GMP2 with the owner's contingency.
Second. A motion has been made and seconded to approve this item, COS 13-014, an amendment to COS 13-014 as presented. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll.
Unanimous yes vote, Mayor.
Thank you. Next item is District Citywide number 10.
No, we did that one already. We did this letter already. Sorry, Mayor.
We're skipping number 9. We've
Going
removed
to
number
10?
9. We've moved number 9 from the agenda this evening and moved it to May 6th.
Okay, number 10 is consideration and action on ordinance 2014-04, adopting by reference the 2012 international codes and amendments and setting an effective date of September 1st, 2014.
Good evening, Chris.
Madam Chair, members of the council, good evening. On behalf of the Community and Economic Development Department and the Surprise and Fire and Medical Departments, we're here tonight to ask you to adopt the 2012 International Code Council Building and Fire Codes as well as their local amendments. As you may recall from our last work session, as well as the work session in June, the ICC codes are developed nationally and then vetted through a highly collaborative process. They are published and then distributed to local agencies that wish to adopt them. Once we receive them, we review them to make local amendments to make sure that we are in conformance with state law, county regulations, and coordinated amongst our own municipal regulations. That process was also highly collaborative. We worked with numerous stakeholders, including the Maricopa Association of Governments, the Home Builders Association of Central Arizona, the Arizona Multifamily Housing Association, as well as a 60-day public comment period. As we worked through those processes, we worked hand in hand with the Building Construction Review Board through 5 work sessions. And during the last mayor and council work session, they recommended approval of both those 2012 I-codes and local amendments. I will say, as one item of follow-up to an item that Councilmember Tandy raised, was talking about lowering the supply line, the water supply line to the house in an effort to affect water temperature. We did look into that. The reality is that the water supply is largely, the temperature of that water supply is largely determined by its source and its storage. Once it actually gets to the supply line, that supply line will run a distance of maybe a maximum of 100 feet. Used to be that those copper pipes would then run up through into the house and in between the walls in the conditioned space. Now we use technology called PEX tubing that actually runs through the attic. It's a much lower cost to install that. Obviously, the attic in the summer, any cooling effect you had by dropping that supply line would be immediately lost as soon as it went up into the attic. So we really weren't able to develop a local amendment that we thought would actually be effective to what the council member was requesting. But I did want to follow up in regard to that question. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
Questions, members? Seeing no questions.
I have a question.
Councilmember Villanueva.
I was going through this paperwork, and I saw on page 11 where it says that fences, that you don't need a permit for fences over 6 feet or up to 6 feet. Is that right?
Councilmember Villanueva and members of the council, that is correct. Our zoning regulations limit residential fences at 6 feet. The new building code actually would allow you to build up to 7 feet. So we amended it, made a local amendment so that we brought it back in concert with our zoning ordinance. So any fence up to 6 feet, not including a retaining wall, would not require a permit.
So you don't need to report to planning and zoning for a sketch of where it's going to go or anything? I'm not sure.
The answer is maybe. Honestly, a lot of it would depend on what else is going on with that fence.
Let's say a resident wants to put a block wall around their house. They don't need a permit. They can just do it, or
as long as that fence is 6 feet or under, they would not require a permit. That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councilmember Tandy.
Appreciate your follow-up on that question. I'm going to move ahead for approval on this, but if people are kind of wondering if that still is a good idea, I'd love to hear from them, because maybe we can do something in the future then and influencing the builders how they construct that. So even if it is at a little higher cost, I'd still like to see if people are interested in having cooler water. So thank you.
Councilmember Tanner, we can certainly, we will make a note of that, and as we start this process, that's something we can bring before the Building Construction Review Board.
Okay.
All right. Seeing no further questions, this is agendized for a public hearing, as I'm informed. So I will, at this time, open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this item? Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Last call. Anyone wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. I will entertain a motion.
Make the motion we accept 2014-04.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve ordinance 2014-04 as presented. If there's no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
Unanimous yes vote, Mayor.
Thank you. Next item.
Presentation and opportunity for public input regarding the proposed development impact fees.
Good evening, Bob.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of City Council. This is a public hearing, and I'm here to talk to you probably for about the fifth or sixth time about development impact fees. I'm going to do a very brief presentation ahead of the public hearing, and I think if any of you see me nodding off, you probably know as much information about this as I do, and you could probably finish the presentation for me. What I'm going to be talking about is, number one, what is an impact fee? How is it calculated? Where are we in this implementation schedule? We had a stakeholder meeting a couple of weeks ago, and there were a number of City Council members that attended that. And I want to just talk to you about what there's some questions that were raised and what our answers are. And I'm fortunate to have our Public Works Director, Dick McKinley, who will join me to help me with that. And I just want to finish up with a quick example to remind you what the impact fees look like. A development impact fee is a one-time charge, and its purpose is to help pay for hardscape, for buildings, roads, pipes, equipment needed to serve growth in the city. Now, we cannot use this money to hire people or to maintain the assets that we build. It's just for the first time that we construct the asset. That's what it's intended for. Now, in the impact fee report, we refer a number of times to special planning areas. And we've included in the map, we've included in our report a copy of this map for users, and that was a recommendation by our council members, and appreciate that. And just for one easy thing, when you look at our spas, is what we call them, the 6 spas, the odd spas are south of Grand Avenue, and the even spas are north of Grand Avenue. Now, I want to talk to you very briefly about how we calculate impact fees. There's really 3 steps. First, we have growth in the city, and growth generates things. Growth generates people. And for instance, the more people that you may have more 911 calls for service. Growth also generates trips on our roads, and then growth generates the need for demand in our utilities and our water, wastewater services. So when we determine what the growth is, the next thing that we look at is, well, what do we need to construct? And in this particular plan, we're looking at fire stations. We're looking at building out 163rd Avenue. We're also looking at building out wells, pumps, water, and sewer lines to deal with that demand. The final step that we need to take is, how do we fairly allocate these costs to the people that are bringing the growth to us? And so we allocate them based on residential housing units. So a house, for commercial space, we break it out into retail, office, industrial. And we also look at the square feet of the building, because the larger the building, the more demand it's going to have on our city services. And then finally, for the water system, wastewater system, we look at the size of the meter to allocate costs. So just in trying to pull it all together, we have a team that has 3 members. To come up with our growth, we hired Elliott Pollock and Associates to determine how the city's going to grow over the next 10 to 15 years. To determine what we need to build, we used the Surprise team, really led by our Public Works Department. And finally, to calculate the fees, we hired an outside consultant, Raf Tillis, who did all the calculations that you'll see contained in the impact fee report that we have as a subject of the public hearing tonight. And finally, just to give you a very simple example of how to calculate the impact fees. If our consultant Pollock said we're going to have 5,000 new homes in the next 10 years, and that's all we were going to have. So if the city staff looked at it and said, well, boy, we're going to need to build a fire station if we have 15,000 more people, and that fire station is going to cost $5 million, then the way we'd calculate what the impact fee would be is we'd take that $5 million and divide it by the 5,000 new homes, and each home would pay $1,000 for their impact fee. And that same concept, which is repeated over and over again in a much more complex way, but that's the basic way that we calculate impact fees. Now, our timeline first came to you in December when we talked about giving a notice for our land use and our infrastructure improvement plan. We had a stakeholder meeting where staff met with people who were interested in the land use assumptions and the infrastructure. And then we had a public hearing on February 4th. On March 11th, you adopted the land use assumptions and the infrastructure improvement plan, and then stated your notice of intent to put together this report for the development impact fees. As I mentioned, on March 24th, we had a stakeholder meeting, and here we are today at our public hearing. We plan to come back to you on May 20th at a special meeting to ask for your approval of these impact fees that we're discussing tonight, and they will go into effect the beginning of August. All right. Now, the stakeholder meeting that we had, there were really three areas of question. Dick, if you could join me on this. The first area of question that our stakeholders had is they wondered about 163rd Avenue. The area that I have on the map in front of you is primarily SPA 2. And there was a question, what was the reasoning to pick that area to, in effect, support the building of the build-out of 163rd Avenue? And Dick answered the question in the meeting, did a great job. If you could help us with that, Dick.
So in this particular area for transportation, almost everything feeds in. Do you have the mic? What?
There you go.
Wow. Microphone challenge today. In this particular area, almost all of the traffic in that area uses 163rd to get in and out. There are very few ways for folks in that area to access Grand Avenue from the east to the west. There's a railroad track and there's some other things that make it very problematic. So we took the area as it would develop that would most likely generate traffic on 163rd. And so one of the parts of the questions was, well, you know, what about the Cap Canal and things like that? So we don't currently have, we have improvements planned, $24 million worth of improvements planned to 163rd, that the impact fees would help to fund that improvement. And that will serve all of that area. Not all of the area, you know, we don't have the bridge over the Cap Canal in the current program because we only, if we put it in there, we only have 10 years to build that project, and we've already bitten off $24 million worth of project. And so those areas, however, that are north of that area are areas that will, for decades in the future, will be benefiting by and using 163rd Avenue.
The next question had to do with we split out our impact fees, as I mentioned earlier, between residences and businesses. And if you look at the table before you, you can see that the impact fee for a single-family residence to pay for 163rd Avenue is just under $300. But when you got to the retail category, a retail facility will pay nearly $4,000. And there was a question from one of our stakeholders is, what's behind that? It seems kind of high. And so we did some research, and Dick?
So the basis of a road is trips. How many cars are going to travel down that road? How many trips are they going to generate? When we set rates and fees for any kind of a utility or any kind of a fee structure, we set them by class. So warehouses are this much, residences are that much. So we don't set them by an individual use. And so, but in this particular case, roads are based on the number of trips, and retail outlets generate many more trips than, say, a warehouse that has 2 or 3 employees or something. And so in terms of who has the greatest impact on the road, who's going to use up most of the capacity of the road, the retail outlets are a significantly greater user than others. And we use that based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation manual. It's really nationally the Bible of based on massive studies of who generates how many trips.
It's sort of the point. The point is to generate trips to your store.
Absolutely.
So.
And then finally, we had a number of our residents provide some feedback and shared some concern that we've heard in this chamber about the impact that the new law has, making it more difficult for cities to pay for growth. Now, I just want to end this presentation just to show you another example of the impact fees. I have 2 examples. They're both for a residence, a single-family residence with a valuation just over $275,000. And this is an all-in cost analysis. So if you could start with the very first column on the left that's headed SPA 1 proposed, the first thing that someone building a home would have to pay construction sales tax. They'd also have to pay building permits. And so to the general fund, there would be $5,100. They would also pay a 1.5% construction sales tax that would go into our general capital fund of about nearly $2,700. And then below that, you will see the components of the impact fees. You can see components for general government, fire, parks and recreation, water resource, and sewer, totaling impact fees of $8,500. So the all-in cost one time on that home would be $16,348 compared to the current fee of about $20,386. And then if I quickly move over so you can see SPA 2, looking at the bottom line numbers, it is slightly higher. The proposed fee would be $17,000, down from $24,000 on the current. And you'll be able to see on that SPA 2 proposed, down at the very bottom before the total of $9,200, you'd see $251 that's associated with 163rd Avenue. And with that, Madam Chair and members of the Council, stand ready for any questions or for you to move to the public hearing.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Dick, I was there at that stakeholder meeting, and the gentleman that asked about the 163rd, he was talking about a connector. He was representing a development out there. I think it's called Sun Haven or something. It's to the west of the Chrysler Grand Vista, and he said there was a road that connected to Grand coming out of Sun Haven instead of going over to 163rd. So did we answer that issue, or is that you still think they're going to impact 163rd?
So they certainly will impact 163rd because that's going to be the main way to get there. That doesn't mean that it will be the only road that anyone ever drives on. I mean, all of us use all of the roads sometimes. We have our certain routes that we use that are the most convenient to get to and from work and to and from shopping and things like that. And that's based on where we live. The roads that you drive, we both live in the city, but the roads you drive every day are a little different than the roads I drive every day because of where I live. And so the same would be true in that case. The roads that they drive every day will be based on where they live. It doesn't mean that they will always drive that road every day, but 163rd is going to be a main, large arterial that will carry much traffic, and so people are going to use that significantly.
Okay. All right. Then the Bob, on the retail, I think it's $3,950 per 1,000 square feet?
Yes.
Okay, so as I remember it, when a grocery store was thinking about coming in out there, it was a 100,000 square foot grocery store, I believe.
Right.
And if I remember, the impact fee
was about $800,000.
So if
That
you just
grocery
round
store.
that to 4,000,
And now it's 400,000.
yes.
So it's half of what it was 4 years ago or 5 years ago when they were thinking about coming in. Is that
That is correct for this.
Right, okay.
But this is this is not the total impact fee. This would be the component to pay for 163rd Avenue.
right?
And so, in order to maybe do an apples to apples comparison between the 800,000 that you mentioned, I'd need to calculate it for all the components of the impact fee, which I'll be happy to do after this
Yeah,
meeting.
but
and
as
get
I
it to
remember
you.
it was that road of regional. Do you remember that?
Oh, is that
I do.
okay?
The road of regional significance,
Okay.
which was 163rd. As I remembered, it was like $800,000.
Well, then you're correct. It is
half
It is
with
half.
this calculation. Okay.
But I'm not certain, Vice Mayor, if that 800,000 represented the
Full shopping center?
the whole fee. I think it
Oh,
was.
I see.
I'm
Or it was
not
just
sure
the
that
roads.
was the whole fee. I thought it was more than $1 million for the whole fee.
The whole
I'm not
fee.
sure. I
Okay.
can't. Don't quote me, but I think Bob is right that I think it represents more than. I see some nodding heads in the audience. Am I correct? Was it more than that? Was it
So,
more?
and if I might, Mayor and Vice Mayor, the other thing to keep in mind, and to help the public also, is that what we used to do, we are no longer able to do now because of
Right.
these impact fees are under a whole new set of laws. So it's very difficult to try to do an apples to apples comparison of how things used to be and how things are going to be, because we don't charge roads of regional significance fees anymore, you know, and some things like that. So it's
Right.
very difficult to say, well, it used to be this and now it's that, because the system is
Okay.
fundamentally different because of the new legislation.
Right. Did you want to, Lloyd? Did you want to help us out with that? A little history lesson here.
Madam Chair, members of council, the approximate cost for that grocery store was about 1.2, 1.3 million. The road's regional significance was approximately about 800,000. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's
Very
what
good.
Okay, all right.
So, and that brings us back to the whole point too of, as you say, it's a new system because the developers lobbied the legislature to change the system because they wanted to reduce the impact fees because it has an impact on their bottom line. And so, I know you heard it from this dais, last time we discussed it, but it's just ironic because obviously cities levied impact fees to help facilitate those growth projects. And it was really a collaborative effort between developers and the city to try to make sure that we were levying those fees to help them build their projects. So ironically, if they now have asked the legislature to create a new system that we have to implement, that does limit our ability to help them with their developments. But I would point out that that does not mean that we are still obligated to provide services to those developments. So it's sort of, it's a balancing act. And every city is going to probably handle it a little differently. I was noting in today's Peoria Times about how the city of Peoria is choosing to handle their impact fees, and they're actually increasing some fees. They're reducing others. Certainly not as significantly as 400% as we are in the roads of regional significance. But some of these very same areas that are impacted, but right up against that eastern border of that northern area, just north, heading north by 163rd to the east part of our city. So it's going to be interesting, but again, if the developers do not want that collaborative relationship with us collecting those fees to make sure that the services are provided, I want to remind everybody, we're not obligated to provide those services. And we want to help them, but by the same token, we don't want the rest of our taxpayers to be burdened by the growth of another area that is there for the purpose of creating a profit center for the development community. So I think the grocery store issue, it's good to know that cost is reduced. Hopefully we will get a grocery store in that area. It's very important. The folks up in the end of that cul-de-sac at 163rd would sure like to see a grocery store. So hopefully that will help them. But again, it does not fully cover all of the services that will be required by a retail facility. So good to know.
And I really like your presentation, Bob.
Yes.
Thank you. I think that you've boiled it down to as simple as we can make it, I think. And you can really follow the bouncing ball, how these rates are thought through, et cetera. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
That's really important to demystify the impact fees, because it's really important for folks to know.
And if I could, Madam Chair and Vice Mayor, as you can see, I'm just a part of a pretty distinguished team of folks here. And I also want to recognize our city attorney, who has helped us tremendously from start to finish on this project.
Thank you. And thank you to the whole team. And Madam City Attorney, thank you as well. So there is a public hearing now. Did I see any other members from council that had questions, comments? All right. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Is there any member of the public who wishes to come before us and speak about impact fees? Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak on this item? Last call. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. So the intention then is to come back for a final approval.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. And so with the removal of item 12, that leads us to our call to the public. Is anyone wishing to speak to us this evening?
No, Mayor.
All right. We'll move forward to future agenda items. Anyone have anything that they wish to discuss on future agenda items? Mayor and council reports. Councilmember Winters, how about yourself?
Thank you, Mayor. I went to the original town site on Saturday for that community event that they had at the Apostolic Church, and I met, lo and behold, at that event, Councilman Biendo and Councilmember Villanova. And we had some great hot dogs and hamburgers. They were very appreciative. We came over, they did a great job. It was their first one, and hopefully they'll have many more. It was a bunch of nice neighbors and local people got together. So it was very nice. After that, I went to the Kingswood Park block party and saw our surprise block party trailer there with our staff hard at work, making sure everybody had a good time, and it was another great event. So that's my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Biondo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Mr. Hillman, Chris Boyd, Chief Frazier, Commander Leggett for meeting with Sun City Grand staff yesterday to talk about managing traffic for some of the major events, as well as requirements for golf carts and landscape vehicles. It was a very productive meeting, and then the mayor and I also met with the general manager this afternoon, and we're planning to meet with the chair and vice chair of the Sun City Grand Board of Directors tomorrow morning. Visited the new Toyota dealership at the Auto Mall and had a chance to meet the general manager, Michael Fall. They have built a wonderful facility out there. It really is first class. And lastly, as Councilman Winters noted, attended the Apostolic Church Community Day on Saturday. It was truly a great family event. You may recall that through our community outreach program, First Round, we helped fund that community day portion of that program, and they were so grateful to the city for their support. And as a side note, I can't resist, I must say there's something poetic about where the church is located. It's on Paradise Lane.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
I have nothing, Mayor.
Councilmember Villanueva?
Other than the church that we attended, I also went to that, and what I was real impressed with was the young students that were there. They were so helpful, so many, And I was really impressed. Somebody asked, "Where are these kids from?" I said, "From that street and that street and that street." They're kids from our community.
Yeah.
I just want to say that we're having our meeting tomorrow at the OTS, and Benavilla is coming in to present their program. Also, Sherry will be presenting his heritage program that is going to take place. And also, Christina is going to be coming in to, the community had some questions, so she's the one that's going to answer some of the questions that they have. One of the things that I've had a lot of questions on is about the traffic control after this Grand Avenue, Bell Road, because they're so afraid of the traffic that's going to go through our community. So we'd like to have a little more information on that, because it's coming soon, and we need to prepare for it. And that's about it.
Thank you. Councilmember Tandy.
Thanks. Last Thursday, April 10th, I was able to attend the Greater Phoenix Economic Council event for, I'll get the title here, it's an ambassador event talking about entrepreneurial ecosystem panel. So we actually had some incubator people there. It was actually a really good panel. We had Jeff Seville he's the executive director from Center of Entrepreneurial Innovation. They specialize on biotech and clean energy, and they work with angel investors. One of his comments and takeaways was the capital is there. They can help connect the people trying to start their business up with the capital. We also had Courtney Klein. She's the co-founder and CEO of Seed Spot. They specialize in a social entrepreneurial niche. They also work with angel investors. They have a pipeline coming out of ASU of people wanting to start businesses. We also had Tishan Donkersley. She is with AZ TechBeat, and she's trying to pull together all kinds of information about these incubators and what's going on in our Phoenix, the whole valley wide, trying to congregate all this information, get some national press for this whole area. So just a lot of good information sharing there at that ambassador event. I also I've been attending some plays at some of the local high schools here. And the one I went to last week, it was called My Persephone at Valley Vista High School. And I believe they also have another couple sessions this weekend. Tickets are very inexpensive. And where else can you find, it was actually very, very well done. It's an original musical, and they actually had a live band orchestra accompanying it. So I was just really impressed. So if you're looking for some culture, check out the Valley Vista program. It's a very nice facility, very good program, very good play that they put on.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Well, a couple of things. The last couple of weeks, I have spent most of my time pretty much meat and potatoes kind of activities, that trying to keep things going here at home in Surprise. And two very important meetings that I had, and I have to tell you, I had a lovely meeting with the chair of our Planning and Zoning Commission. And members, they are so very excited, the Planning Commission, knowing that we're going to completely revisit the way we work together as a council and Planning and Zoning Committee. So we will be, as you know, having a couple of joint sessions with them to try to revitalize that relationship. A wonderful opportunity for us to really articulate to them exactly what it is our vision is, and so that they can help our staff implement that vision. And I really thank Chris for helping to facilitate that as well. We're going to try to work to make this a real community effort, collaborative effort between probably one of the most primary commissions that we have, and to really communicate better with that the Planning and Zoning Commission. Really, really important. Of course, we want to do a better job of communicating with all of our commissions, boards and commissions, but there simply has to be this fundamental understanding of the minds, meeting of the minds between the council and our Planning and Zoning Commission, if we really want to implement the vision that we have articulated as a council. So I'm looking forward to that process very much. Also, I had a meeting. Chris and I had a meeting earlier this week. Gosh, was it this week or was it last week? It's been, was it Monday that we met with Ab? Okay, yes, it was yesterday. We met with Ab Jackson from the Chamber, and you know, there is probably no organization in our community that is a greater partner for the City of Surprise than our Chamber, especially in the last couple of years. And I really compliment Ab Jackson and his board and how they have really worked to build a very, very vibrant Chamber. It's quite a challenge in a growing community like ours. And so, as you probably are aware, their contract with the City of Surprise is about to expire. And so it has long been my desire to revisit the contract concept, and I think we have a better solution that is more of an MOU that we will want to visit on, I believe it's May 6th.
Next week, on the 22nd, AB is going to be coming in to provide the quarterly report, and we'll be introducing this concept, about the MOU and some of the different components. And, as part of that quarterly report, we'll be looking for some of the council feedback as to what you would be looking for to be included in the MOU. What would those expectations be that the council would have, for the Chamber, for the next, calendar time that the MOU would cover. So
of course, the goal will be to be very specific in our relationship, to make certain that we have deliverables that we expect and hope for, and that they have a clear understanding of what our expectations are. I think it's just a wonderful relationship that's really growing, and I just very much appreciate that. To your question, Councilmember Villanueva, the Belgrande, ADOT is holding the Belgrande public hearing on April 30th. I don't have the exact times, but it is for certain April 30th.
3:30 to 7.
Thank you.
Yeah.
3:30 to 7. And location?
Sonora Plaza.
Sonoran Plaza.
Sun City Grand.
In Sun City Grand. And so we're very much looking forward to that next part of the process and the public hearing, where we can get more discussion about the impacts, especially during construction. But of course, the goal is to make it an easier traveling roadway. And so that is our goal, and also to mitigate the impacts on our businesses and the community at large during construction. So it'll be a great opportunity to ask those questions and get some answers from ADOT. So with that is all I have. And council member?
Is that going to be their choice of where the traffic goes, or is that going to be our choice? I mean, the city itself.
The choice.
You mean how we direct traffic?
Yes.
Well, it's a state road. Grand Avenue is a state road, and we collaborate with the state as well as we also work on Bell Road in our city as the city portion of Bell Road. So we have Grand and Bell, and it's a collaborative effort between the two, although the Bell Grand project itself is a state project. So in terms of taking the Bell Road over the Grand Avenue, that is a state, that is one of the state proposals, and that is their project.
But my question is, once the traffic is rerouted, is that going to be our choice, or is that going to be the state's choice? The rerouting of the traffic, not the project itself.
Good question.
When you're talking about during construction,
During
the construction, that is something that is going to be, again, a collaborative effort. I'm sure that Mr. McKinley can confirm that. In fact, any type of effort when you are merging the projects that impact local streets and local businesses with a state project, it really is a collaborative effort. We've worked really well with ADOT during the 303 project, which has direct impact on local streets and roads. And so we've worked great with them on that 303 project, and we have real confidence in our ability to work with them to make sure that we mitigate that traffic problem during the construction. So, but it'll be a great place to get more information at the public hearing on April 30th. So, with that, I see no
Make a
further
motion that
input.
we adjourn our meeting.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. This meeting is adjourned.
Listen up, surprise! One day, 2 cans, 4 feet apart, starting May 5th. May 5th is when the city begins same-day service for trash and recycling collection, meaning you can roll out your black and blue cans on the same day each week. Remember, 1, just one day to remember for trash recycle pickup. 2, both your trash and recycling will be picked up on the same day. 4, keep 4 feet distance between your trash and recycle cans when putting them out. 5, May 5th, same-day collection begins. Look for door hangers and can tags to find out your new collection day. Visit surpriseaz.gov/sanitation or call Public Works at 623-222-6000. Same-day collection begins May 5th.